Hi everybody, so I'm going to go over how to make a pedigree in case you're still confused. So I have here the worksheet that I set up for you. The trait that I'm going to explore is light eyes. I wrote down the names of all of my family, so here's my grandpa and grandma. Once again, my grandpa and grandma on my dad's side. My mom's name was Jennifer, my father's name is Robert. And I wrote down their sisters and brothers. And then I recorded my cousins. Now, if you have a really prolific family, then feel free to limit that to your 5 favorite cousins, and we'll just ignore that you have more than 5 cousins on each side. So here I've got Tiffany, Mary, and Matthew, and my Aunt Johanna has Gabriel and Jody. My Uncle Bart has John, Bonnie, Justin, and Carrie, and my Uncle Bill has Kathy and Billy. These are my siblings down here. I have a half-sister and 2 adopted brothers. I am not going to include them in my pedigree because they're not related to me. So we have absolutely no relation. We don't even share a one parent. Now, if we shared a parent, if this was my half-sister, then I would keep her in there. But because I have no genetic material with these 3 folk, I am not going to use them in my pedigree. So I have Robert and Heather, so both of them have the trait. I'm going to start circling the people that have the trait. My Aunt Johanna has the trait. Gabriel does not, but Jody also has light eyes. Kathy has brown eyes. Billy has blue eyes. Carrie, Justin, and Bonnie all have light eyes, but John does not. My Uncle Bart has light eyes. Let's see. I guess that would go up here. Both of these gentlemen have light eyes. My father has light eyes. And both John and Roy have light eyes. Going through this family, Mary has light eyes. Tiffany and Matthew do not. Aunt Johanna has light eyes, but my Aunt Gail does not. My mother did not have light eyes. However, my grandmother, Patricia, did. So now I'm looking at all of the people that had the light eyes, and I'm going to start doing my pedigree. So in pedigree, each line represents 1 generation. So you have to have a generation on each line. So what I'm going to do is I am recording my grandparents, my parents, and then my generation. Okay, so I'm going to be recording 3 generations. So I'm going to kind of just use a little pencil to just kind of say, okay, well, I'm going to have grandparents, parents, and then my generation. So me, my siblings, and my cousins. So if you have more generations than that, you're probably going to need to sketch out more lines. So circles are females and males are squares. So I'm just going to kind of say, okay, well, I'm going to have my 1 set of grandparents on this side, and I'm going to show that they're married and that they have children. Okay, and then over here, I'm going to have another set of grandparents on this side, and they were married, and they also have children. So, something that you want to be really careful about is you don't want to accidentally show that your aunt and uncle are married. So if you put an aunt here and an uncle here, right, then that would be showing a marriage, and you don't want to show a marriage between siblings. So what we do is we say, these 2 were married, these are their children, so this is their offspring, and then you do another branch, and then you drop it. So these guys had 3 boys. Now notice how sloppy this is. That's totally okay. That's okay because this is a rough draft, and rough it is. Okay, because you're going to see what happens here. All right, so now I'm like, okay, so this is my mom and this is my dad. So they get married and they had children. And I'm only recording, remember, my biological siblings. So here's my sister, here's me, and here's my brother. Okay? But now I'm looking at this, I'm like, uh-oh, well, I didn't give enough room because, let's see, this is my uncle married my Aunt Kathy, and they had 2 children, a girl and a boy. And then my Uncle Bart, he got married, and they had 4 children. And oh man, I'm really squished here. This isn't really working for me. So they had 2 girls and 2 boys. And then over here, my aunt got married, and they had 2 children, a girl and a boy. And then this aunt got married to my Uncle Andy, and they had 3 children, 2 girls, and a boy. Okay, so now I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, this is not pretty, but that's okay, because this is a rough draft. I'm going to go ahead and start putting in the names now, so that's a really important part here. I'm going to go ahead and put in the names, and I'm going to pause a moment while I do that so you don't have to wait with me. Okay, so now you can see that I have put in my family names, and I'm not going to add last names right now because this is just a rough draft, but I'm seeing that I'm going to need to stretch some stuff out down here at the bottom. I might need a bigger piece of paper. I might need to make my circles and my squares smaller, but I'm definitely going to need to plan this out really well in order to fit all of these people on. So I'm going to go ahead and start going over. These are the people that actually have light eyes. So Mary had light eyes, Jody did, all 3 of us did, Bill did, Bonnie does, Carrie does, and Justin does, Bart does, Bill does, Robert does, Joe does, Pat does, and both Boy and John do. So because these guys were both recessive, we know that they both have to be little b, right? Because they're showing the recessive trait. And so all of their offspring are also going to be little b because they can't give the big B gene. However, when you're marrying somebody that has the trait, so we know that Kathy has the trait, but here's where it starts to get tricky. So is she homozygous dominant or is she heterozygous? Well, she has to be heterozygous because she could not have an offspring with blue eyes if she didn't carry the trait. So if you guys remember with the Punnett squares, and I'm just going to do this real quick for you. If she was homozygous, then all of the offspring would have dark colored eyes, right? And so since she has a light colored eyed child, then she has to be heterozygous because that's the only way that she could have dark colored eyes and have a light colored eyed baby. Is everybody comfortable with that? I hope so. So I was just able to figure out her genotype, and so I'm looking down here and that makes sense. My cousin Billy is little b, and Kathy, because she had to get little b from her dad, she couldn't get anything else. Even if she got big B from her mom, she had to get little b from her dad, and so we know that Kathy is also heterozygous. If you look over here, little b, Marilyn also has to be heterozygous because she has blue-eyed babies. And so using the same reasoning, I'm just going through and I'm filling out everybody's genotypes here. Right? So going to my siblings, we're all recessive. So we're all going to have light-colored eyes and be homozygous recessive. My mom, to have blue-eyed babies, had to be heterozygous, right? And my Grandpa Roy, he had to be heterozygous or else he couldn't have a blue-eyed baby, right? Oh, sorry, my Grandma Pat has the trait, so she must be double recessive. And now I'm just going through and figuring out everybody out here. So this is... Now you might get to somebody, so let's say Matthew got married, right? And they had children, and the children, that child had dark eyes, right? So I don't know if this family member is homozygous dominant or heterozygous, and I don't know if the little boy that they had is heterozygous or homozygous. So what I'm going to do in that case is I'm going to put their name. Let's call this child Jimmy. And I'm going to put both big B or big B little b. Okay? So there may be times when somebody has the dominant trait and you can't figure out what their genotype is, and that's okay. All right, well, now it's time to do my final draft. And so when I do my final draft, I'm going to make sure that I use some sort of stencil to make all of my circles. They're all uniform. I'm going to use a ruler to make all of my straight lines. I'm going to make sure that I sketch it out with pencil so that I make sure that I have plenty of room to fit everybody in. And that way, I'm going to get an A, right? And in addition to that, I'm going to make sure that I include as many people as I can in my family, trying to go at least to grandparents. And if you can only do one side of that, that's okay. That's totally fine. Just do the best you can. All right, have a great day.